We have Michael Rianda, who's the film's writer and director, and he, along with Lindsey, are going to answer a bunch of your questions.
Hey there. So Katie Vision is one of my favorite aspects of the whole film. And can you talk a little bit about your decision to help have Katie essentially animate and tell her story in the film?
Well, can I talk about your amazing sweatshirt? It's wonderful and you're nailing it. All right. You look great. The hair, beautiful complementary colors. I love it. But no, Katie Vision was sort of an idea on a whiteboard, because we were like, wouldn't it be cool to match? Because we were sort of like film students, you know, we had no business making a movie. That's another lesson. You know, you don't have to, if you really want to do something, just do it. Don't wait for somebody to be like, now you are allowed to do this thing. But anyway, Katie Vision. So we got really excited, like, what if we mixed 2D with 3D? Oh my God, it'd be incredible. And then we got distracted, because it's really, really hard to make a movie good, just normally without any sort of bells and whistles. But then Lindsey sort of made this incredible test over the weekend when she was supposed to be doing other work, and everyone was mad at her because they're like, you're not hitting your deadlines, but you're like, I'm doing this other exciting thing. And it was really cool because we realized that it made us feel closer to Katie as a character. So it kind of worked in the story, that it was almost like she was editing the movie. So all of a sudden you felt closer to her, and you guys made all these like wonderful, where you got to literally just like draw on the screen and stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like, it was something, that was kind of talked about, and I was seeing, because I'm working closely with the art and the look of the movie, and then there's the story team, and whether it was like seeing their like ideas for Katie's videos and conversation with Mike and Mike's ideas, it felt like it was so important to see Katie as a filmmaker. And so when we were figuring out and kind of getting this whole studio to kind of agree with the look of our movie, it felt like we had this missing piece. So we had the look of what our human world is, and its imperfect look, and then this kind of slick, cool, bold robot look. And it always felt like there's this Katie world to address. And so we had a lot of ideas from seeing these kind of fun puppet videos and all these explorations that the story team was doing. And so I kind of found this way that, like, let's bring that into those moments, but also throughout the movie, can we have 2D animations pop up throughout to really enhance that feeling of her? And we kind of worked on how do we kind of have a plan of how it is charted all throughout the movie, so it's always kind of supporting her story. And so then once we kind of talked about that and talked about how it supports her emotional core, I think everyone got excited about it. So it was something that then we knew we wanted to do throughout, and it was a lot of fun. And we built a lot of little puppets.
These are some of the puppets.
Yeah.
This is used in the actual movie, even though it's made on cardboard. This is Katie's. Her pupils have been lost to time. And then this is the pterodactyl, which you can see, we always talk about this, but it has these, it's literally, its hands are these little forks that we stole from the cafeteria, because we didn't have any money to make puppets, so we just did stuff like this. But it was really cool, and it sort of like, it made us get in the headspace of like, you know, somebody with only a few dollars to go to Michael's on the weekend and you know, make some weird stuff. So and that's another part of it that's cool, and sort of like reminds you of what's great about being a kid, is you're not like, oh, is this the official way that someone needs to do something? It's like, no, it's fun, that looks funny, look, it's a weird cheese ball with a face on it, I don't know, next thing. You know, so I guess to say, I would don't be ashamed of your ideas. You know, they're cooler than you think they are.
Yeah, and part of the spirit of some of this stuff too, it's like, I think there was a time that it was like, oh, we're not going to be able to do this with live action puppets because that's a different division, or live action, we can't do that. But with technology, things are so accessible, and we have like a layer of that in the studio with, like, I use my camera and we put it into After Effects. It's even way more accessible than that, because you can film things on your phone. There's apps that are way more affordable than even the ones we're using. So it's like, that's that spirit that we're tapping into, because we talk about cell phones in our movie, and a big part of that is like the creative stuff you can do on them. And so for you guys too, what you can access with filming something on your phone, bringing it into another app and making things, it's like that spirit of like what you can do now, what you can access with technology to make your own stories, make your own films, is something that we were kind of playing with, and it's fun, you know, if you guys are interested in that, to take that
Yeah,
spirit
make a
to your
movie.
own work.
It's fun. Just do it on a weekend, and
Yeah.
even if it's not good, you'll still have fun making it.
Monchi's are honestly our favorite character, and I want to know, how did Monchi evolve into Monchi? How many phases did you go through to figure out this is the look we want? Because when the mom says, I think you can, and she tries to, and his eyes are, it's the best. It's absolutely the best, because honestly, that's my kid. It's like I always look at him and go, I know you can. I'm like, this is so relatable. So Monchi is not only the pet but it's another child in the family. So I want to know the evolution of Monchi and how you finalized this Monchi.
I can speak to the creation of Monchi, and then Lindsey can talk about designing this creature. Basically, Monchi is a real dog. Comes from a real dog name that was originally named Maggie, but then my sister changed its name to Monchi. She's like, she seems more like a Monchi. She's got a lot of chaotic energy. And Monchi was like very wall-eyed, and very was not quite as plump as the eventual Monchi. I think that the fatter dogs are, the cuter they are. So that was part of the calculus there. But the initial Monchi was just like really earnest and was trying her best and was not that good. Couldn't really do anything, had to go to the vet a lot, but we really loved her. And then so when we had the Mitchells, I really wanted to put a pug in a movie, and also a pug in a movie that looked like a real pug, because sometimes I feel like the pugs look kind of, they sand the edges off, but pugs are bizarre creatures that maybe shouldn't exist. So we just like let Lindsey rip into it, and she just started drawing 100 of the best pug designs you've ever seen in your life.
Thank you. I could actually screen share some. I was like, I think I've got this handy.
Oh, please do. They're the best.
Yeah. But basically, yeah, it's like what Mike said. Mike always has like a great vision for how the character should feel. So it makes my job easy, because I have like a good sense of like what their character is like what their personality is like. And for him, it was really, okay, there it goes. It was really getting the right mix of something that was like cute but lovable. And some we've played with getting these weirdnesses of the pugs, but some they get like a little too weird or too creature-like. So we've got some of these.
Sometimes they were tragic.
Yeah, that was Michael would always talk about that. Like with him, it couldn't look too tragic or too mean. You know, you needed to really like love them too. So it's like we try to get that balance, and some of that came with simplicity. Some of them there's a little too much information and stuff, and we found you can reduce a lot and it still feels like a pug. But we really just wanted him to feel really like joyful and funny, and he's a little silly. We looked a lot at like the postures of pugs and animals, and also just he's really kind of like this little plump character, kind of plump, squishy, doughy, bread-like. And
we also found that he also needed to always be smiling, because it made him seem like he was having a good time and he was okay with all this. Sometimes he would be like frowning and then like, oh. It was like, oh, this
he's awesome.
As much as this film has us laughing, it also had me crying like through so many parts of it. The dynamics of children and teenagers and parents. It's just a struggle, right? My question is to you, do you have teenagers of your own that you related to in writing this movie?
I think mostly ourselves when we were teenagers, just because it's like I sort of feel close to the 17-year-old version of myself. And I also wanted to point out, I only said it in the chat, but I saw these Monchi drawings. You guys are all hired. Whatever the next project is, you guys can do the drawings. These are so wonderful. But yeah, no, it's sort of, you know, I think it was based on a lot of people. You know, my sister is really funny like Katie, and sort of shares a lot of her sort of like, you know, she kind of like, you know, her and my dad would butt heads now and then. And I did think that was important to show, you know, honestly, the realistic problems that families have, because, you know, I think it's easy to smooth over that stuff, but then you're not talking about real people anymore, because real people have problems with each other. And I think, and just in terms of like, you know, teenagers and stuff, we were trying to sort of really get the excitement of like, oh, I'm moving to the next phase of my life because that was like, I remember how exciting that was. And it was like, anything could happen. I could be a skateboarder, maybe. Maybe I'll be in a band. Maybe I'll be a cartoonist, whatever. I picked the lamest of those three. But it was really an exciting time. So we tried to capture that excitement and optimism with Katie, as well as like how, you can really have legitimate problems with your family members and hopefully model productive ways to work this out.
With the DVD, now you have a lot of deleted scenes.
Yes.
But one of the deleted scenes that are here, which one would you have liked to be in the original film?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the funny thing is, I love all those deleted scenes. They are my children, and I wish them the best, and I want them to go into the world. But I will say, I'm kind of happy they're all gone because even though I think they're really funny individually, and I'm proud of them just watching them as a scene on its own, but I will say that taking them out made the movie better. The one that sort of like entertains me the most, because it's sort of the one that's the most different from the movie, is there's a scene where the family, as a family together, and I tried to write it as much like, it's like, you and your family and your kids and your weird uncle have to literally kidnap the president of the United States of America. But the movie didn't have, could not support that storyline. It was too much of a weird left turn. But that's the one that I think is funny.
So how long did it take to make an animated film?
I will say it took a really, how old are you?
9.
Okay, you would have been 3 when we started. So more than half your life. It took a long time. I don't think they always take as long of a time. I think, because this is a movie about, it's not about X-Men. It's about my father, who is the farthest thing you can get from an X-Men as humanly possible. It was a big ask of the studio, which, like, rightfully so. They want to make sure that anyone's going to care about this weird story. So for a long time, we just had to prove that the movie would exist. And like Lindsey had already done this great work, and all of our team had already done this great work. And I was like, we have to make it, so this isn't all in vain. So we were probably only like really, really making the movie for the last 3 years. So that was probably how long it really took. But the movie the whole time was getting better. And that is sort of like a lesson if your guys are making something. And, kids are great because they never get discouraged. They're like, I made this drawing and it's wonderful. But I will just say, as you get older, don't lose that. Because I remember a time when I was like 8 or 9, and I got really aware that I wasn't as good at drawing as like the cool guys that do comic books. And then I got all weird and self-conscious, and I was like, my drawings are terrible. And I didn't draw for a long time, but your drawings are great. Any expression of your own emotions is wonderful, no matter what it looks like.
Like, did you have fun making the movie? And
yes, absolutely. I think it was really delightful, and Lindsey can speak to this, but one of the most fun things is that you get to hire a bunch of people that then become your friends sometimes. And if they want to hang out with you, which when you're the boss, they don't. But it's really wonderful to work with all of them and hang out with them and kick around ideas, and they'll come up with things that surprise you. And that was the most fun part of it, is the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's really fun. Like, I always loved to make art, and I made a lot of art, and it was mostly by myself. Like, I'd make it with my sister sometimes, but it's nice when you're doing it as a job, like what Mike was saying, you get to build these teams. And so I had like an art team that had 10, 15 people, and they all became really good friends. I feel like I formed these really great friendships with other artists on the team and my other kind of art director and people. And so it's really fun to be able to make something better than you ever could on your own with other people. And then you end up forming these friendships that last after the movie. And when we watch the movie, we can see all of our friends in it. And so it makes it kind of extra special too.
Yeah, you can form your child friends together to make some sort of Voltron of creativity, and then make the world better with your art.
My question is kind of a little bit of an add-on for what Lindsey was just talking about, and sort of had it earlier when she was talking about animation, but I know it looked like she was using an Adobe tool when she was doing her drawing. Adobe tools are obviously not inexpensive, but if you have kids that want to learn or teens that want to learn, do you have recommendations for tools that they could practice digital animation or digital drawing with that maybe wouldn't be quite as expensive, or some of the, I know Adobe has some sort of beginner tools that you might, recommend that's a good one for them to kind of start with, just because we all know Adobe, products are not inexpensive for cloud. And, I've purchased the, owning the whole suite way back when you owned the whole thing before you joined the cloud service, and it's, pretty chunk of change. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. I've gotten into, I got an iPad recently, which I know also isn't like super cheap, but I know a lot of people have them. But Procreate on the iPad is wonderful. I just started getting into it recently, and I forget, I think it's like $10 or something, a one-time thing.
There's my Procreate.
Hey,
Wow.
good.
That's good.
Hired.
I highly recommend that. And probably as is, lately I've gotten into like getting paper, like magnetic screen protectors, because they make it a little bit more like drawing traditionally. And I just recently got this big board that you could insert it into, so you can kind of really get in there and draw on it, this thing called like Sketchboard Pro. But Procreate's a great tool. As far as animating, I don't know if it's as robust, and I'm not sure what the best animation ones are, but there are really competitive app software now for sure. I use Photoshop for work. It's kind of like a work standard, but lately I have been using Procreate for work too. It's definitely a professional tool and accessible for kind of beginners also.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people have iPads, even if it's not necessarily the inexpensive tool option. So the app for it's not necessarily like that part's an inexpensive add-on if you have it. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think we started before a lot of these apps and stuff have come out, sort of like, so since we've been professionals, I don't know what the like cool thing for people is, but I will also say that it's like, it's okay if the program isn't perfect, as long as you can do something on it, you'll sort of learn and sort of have fun. And I think that, and I also think that one of the nice things, it's like iMovie, just, if you just want to make a movie on your phone, just make it on iMovie. It's free. If you have a Mac. Because it's really simple, and it'll, even though your movies won't be like unassailably professionally edited, I think they're good enough for YouTube. So I would just say, don't maybe sort of like anything is good at first, and then sort of as you get a taste for it, as your kids get a taste for it, you might sort of like want to like, it could be a good birthday present or Christmas present or something, is like the more advanced version of that.
So I was wondering what inspired or what was the thought process for the soundtrack of the movie, because I really like the music.
Oh, great. I love the music. The inspiration was just songs that I love or songs that we love, because I think that's sort of the overall sort of philosophy of the whole movie, is like, stick the movie make it as bursting with love as we can possibly do, because sometimes a music cue would fit for a moment, like either emotionally or whatever, but I just didn't like the song, or like we didn't like the song as a group. And it was like, we just wanted to fill it in with every song that we loved ever. And then sort of narrowed it down to the ones that worked for the moment and didn't. And it was really cool working with like Alex Leahy, who was just an artist that we loved. And then we worked with her on this ending song, and she did such a great job with it. But that was fun too, because we got to sort of like call out for people whose work we liked and see if they wanted to collaborate with us. And that was like, it was really fun to work on.
It feels like pretty immediately everyone loved this movie, like I said, us included. And I would love to know how that felt when it was like immediately fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and just massive, massive fans.
It was the best. Because just because especially me and especially the sort of group of filmmakers that were sort of responsible for the movie and stuff, like, we're so audience focused. Like, we are happy when the audience is happy, so we tested it a bunch, and we wanted to make sure that all the jokes landed and that all the emotions landed and stuff like that. And sort of like, I'm really not a filmmaker, or none of us are, Jeff, Chris, and Phil, who are like, we'll make what we want and let the audience sort it out. We're like, I hope you like this thing we made. So for us, it was very validating. Lindsay, how did you feel?
Oh, no, it felt so good. It'd been so long. We talked about how long it took to make, and Mike and I were working on it since 2015. So I felt so close to it that I couldn't see it with fresh eyes. Like I didn't know what it's like to watch this movie for the first time, and I believed in it. And we'd seen test audiences, and it seemed like that went well. So we're like, oh, I hope this goes well, but you just don't. It's hard to see it with fresh eyes. So letting like the world see it with fresh eyes, no, it was crazy, and it was so surreal too. Like this is my first time in a big like a leadership role where I'm very involved with like who the characters are and how they look, and seeing fan art. Like we were looking a lot online at like fan art or people doing cosplay, and seeing a ton of it, and it was super surreal and so meaningful. And we were, a lot of us were like texting back and forth like messages that we were seeing, and it was very like touching and very surreal. It was the coolest thing, and we're super happy with seeing how it relates to people, because that's what's so cool about working on these movies is they have such a huge audience. Like you get to make art, but it gets to like connect with people, and that's like this cool ingredient that we hadn't really seen for like 5 years. And so it's been great.
Hi guys, and actually it's kind of a perfect segue off of Tessa's question, because I agree, our family loves the movie. We just watched it again this morning, and and even on the back, best animated movie of the year, all those accolades. Do you guys feel like there's more Mitchell stories to be told? Is there any hope for more Mitchells in the future? Because we're hoping so.
Okay, well, there's a couple things. One, on the very Blu-ray you're holding. Also, how's it looking in there? I haven't seen it on the inside of one yet. So if any of you have it open, let me see it. But anyway, yes, I mean, in the very Blu-ray you're holding, there is a Katie made short that is basically like a continuation of her story, and like going to college and meeting Jade and all that stuff. And it's great. And then also, if you pause the movie at a certain frame, I'll let you guys figure it out. There are a list of sequel options. There's like 25 different sequels. So vote for your favorite, or maybe, you and your family can like make that on a weekend and see if it'll be cool. Maybe you could make, the Mitchells versus the Army of Clones, using a bunch of trick photography and mirrors and stuff. And then sort of, there's always conversations and stuff, about what's happening next. And I might not make it myself because I'm tired, but there's a lot of great artists like Guillermo Martinez and wonderful artists who got their start on the Mitchells, who have that story in their DNA, and hopefully will be interested in making one of those, one of the 25 we listed, including one called Oops, All Furbies, which might be it. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
My question is, so the cast is amazing. Like, I mean, you guys have an incredible cast. And so what was the process of finding the right people to match these characters that have grown to love and know and create? So how was that process, and how was the making of the film with these incredible actors?
Oh man, we so lucked out. I mean, like we got, because like Abby Jacobson is all of the things that Katie is, and she's also an amazing actress. Like it's like she went to art school, she grew up in the Midwest, she eventually ended up successful and all that stuff. Like so all of her improvisations that she would come up with were really natural and like could just fit right into the movie because she is that person. So that was really fun. Danny McBride was wonderful as Rick, and that whole sequence of him staring, we're gonna make constant eye contact, all that stuff is just Danny, started as just Danny in the room just being like, keep your eyes, hey, no, you don't have to squint, just look at me, oh, Monchi's got it, there you go. Like all of that stuff was just sort of said in a room, and then we built a scene around it. And it was really fun. Maya Rudolph was wonderful. Olivia Colman is like the world's greatest. Like every time we recorded with Olivia Colman, this is going to seem like it's like I'm being hyperbolic, but this is a 100% fact. Every time we recorded with her, someone in the room would be like, oh my God, she's incredible. And whether that was like Chris and Phil, who've worked with hundreds of great actors and stuff, So it was a real joy, and sometimes it would be really nice, and I wish actually, I wish we brought the actors in sooner so we could have done more of it. Because the actors came along about, when we started making the movie for real. But I wish they were here earlier so they could have informed the characters more in the script phase, But there were ways to sort of bounce back and forth and use their funny little improvisations. And like Maya was always singing. So we got like some like singing stuff. And if we were to do a sequel, I would, just have a Maya Rudolph karaoke, explosion, because she's like the world's best singer. So yeah, that's the answer.
Well, yeah, I would love to talk Easter eggs, because we got to talk to you before, Mike, before the film was out. And I know animators love to stuff the film through. I'm wondering, are there any that are still hidden that you haven't seen brought out yet?
Oh, that's a great question. I you know what hasn't been, and some of the stuff, because when you're making something in 3D, you meticulously like design, like say you meticulously design a wallet like this, but then in the shot, you only see it at like this angle, but there's all kinds of cool stuff on the wallet. So if you could extract it and look at it up close, you could see what it, I've run Stampy well. You could see what it is. So Katie's on Katie's laptop, there's like a bunch of weird film references. Some to really obscure Swedish movies that we love, and some to like more, sort of obvious movies. So if you look really hard on Katie's laptop, you can see some of those. And there's also that is the number one thing, I think. And also I think there's a reference to Wes Anderson movies on Katie's backpack that I haven't seen anyone make yet, but is really obvious if you know the movie and you're looking for it. So those are a couple.
So I was very curious to know if there were certain influences that brought this type of drawing to life. I know Lindsey had shared that you were celebrating imperfections, which is another beautiful layer to the movie. But visually, did you have any specific influences to bring this to life?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was one of the things that we got really excited about early on, is that we could pull influence, because oftentimes there's like a lot of animation movies like have the same influences, where it's like, with Disney movies in the past and stuff like that, which are wonderful, but we were like, let's have crazy influences from all over the world. So we were trying to be influenced by, teenagers' drawings. Lindsey had a friend that did these really cool, weird, teenage drawings that we were looking at. And like, James Terrell is an installation artist who's very fancy, who would blanch if he knew that our dumb cartoon was using his $1 million installations. And Lindsey found a bunch of great photographers that we really loved. Like, who are some of the
there's like a bulk of them that are like photographers from like early color photos, where I think it wasn't as like thought of as tasteful or something, but like Stephen Shore, William Eggleston were a couple big ones, and a lot of them, like Stephen Shore had a book too where it was like his travels across the country, and he's documenting where he's staying, and like a photo on the wall of a toilet, and it had that kind of spirit, like the food you're eating, kind of before that was like a trend, but like the food you're eating and as it is, and things that were like this kind of early color photography, but things that felt really observed. We looked at a lot of photography. Mary Frey was one of them, Thomas Struth, the people that are capturing photos that feel, it's like the closest reference point to like your actual home photos, because we were just trying to make it feel really real and not feeling like, sometimes art is like a really beautiful portrayal of something, and we wanted like art like marks on things, but the feel of it to be something that's more like a home photo that's imperfect, and then put some strokes on it. Sorry, go ahead.
One thing that no problem. One thing that was really cool that Lindsey did is that she would tell her artists, like, don't Google bedroom, don't Google teenager's bedroom, because you will see this gorgeous Etsy bedroom. She's like, just go on Craigslist and Google teenager bedroom, and then you would see real teenager bedrooms, and they were always a disaster.
We look at like real estate listings, or like if we were designing a couch, it was like, let's go to Craigslist, let's go to Michigan, that's where it's set, and let's see what couches are for sale, because that's going to be a better idea what couches are in your house now, because you usually don't have things that you bought at the same time from the year you're living in. Likely you have something that's old, or maybe it's a hand-me-down, or and that's something we're trying to celebrate, of like human stories, because like maybe the couch that your mom gave to you, you can't find quickly if you're looking for images of couches, but there's a story there. Maybe there's memories and stuff. So that's what we were always chasing.
And
Thank you
remember,
so
3
much.
hours of bonus material, shorts, a new Bonanza cut, feature commentary. We got it all, people. Get that DVD.
Vote for your sequel. Vote for your favorite sequel.
And vote for your favorite sequel.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.